So people often ask me, why I am so stubborn and hard-headed and closed-minded, refusing to admit when I'm wrong, refusing to apologize, doubling down when people are upset at me, and then tripling down when they're mad that I doubled down. The answer is that I'm just kind of a jerk, frankly. I mean, that's the answer. But also because, although maybe not everyone can or should operate this way, we all have different personalities, some of us need to, because this is the kind of thing we're up against. We cannot all be equivocators and compromisers while we face an ideological opponent who stands firm in his position no matter what, regardless of the facts, regardless of anything. Some of us have to be a bit obstinate, headstrong, or else we'll all be blown around by the breeze like little leaves and twigs. A perfect example of the left's stubbornness, which calls for a proportional response, I think, is this. It's been less than a week since the Jussie Smollett verdict, when the left and the media were all, you would think, humiliated after the hoax they promoted was revealed as a hoax. You might assume that they would want to crawl into a hole for a while, lick their wounds, hide their faces, and certainly steer plenty clear of anything else that looks like it might be a race hoax. But that's just not how they roll. And so yesterday, ESPN, with timing that is not a coincidence, decided to air a special on the Bubba Wallace story. Now, you remember that Bubba Wallace was the black NASCAR driver who claimed that somebody hung a noose in his garage last year. NASCAR rallied around him, the media ate the story up, and it all culminated in the dramatic display of all of the drivers at Talladega marching around the track with Bubba Wallace in a show of solidarity. And they all gave him hugs and they were all crying. Of course, there's one really important detail about that noose, quote unquote, which is that it was not a noose. It was a rope that you used to close the garage door. A garage door pull, as we call it. Anyone who's ever been in a garage might be familiar with these contraptions. They're just like ropes. That's why they're hanging. That's why it's, interestingly enough, hanging from the garage door. You might wonder, why is that rope on the garage door? Oh, well, because when you pull it, the door goes down. Wow. NASCAR drivers who spend many hours in garages are certainly familiar with these things. They see them all the time. But even if Bubba Wallace and everybody else at the Speedway that day had suffered amnesia and forgotten about the existence of garage door pulls, they still could have easily figured out whether the rope was meant to be some kind of racist message to Bubba Wallace. There are security cameras all over the place, as some of us pointed out when this story was first reported. Well, there are security cameras, so couldn't you just quite easy to find out what's going on? Simply go back and check the footage and see how long the rope has been there. If it's been there for longer than a day or two, that means that it could not have been targeted at Bubba Wallace, because nobody would have known prior to that point that Wallace would be assigned to that garage. So that's all you got to do. Security cameras, just look at them. Look at the footage. It'd take like 10 minutes. Now, as it happens, the FBI showed up with 15 agents to investigate the rope, and they did exactly that. They checked the tape. And when they did, they discovered that it had been there since the previous year. For months, it had been hanging there, and nobody thought anything of it. Did we need 15 FBI agents to look at the footage and discover this? Is there a reason why NASCAR couldn't have done this themselves immediately before running out to the public and telling everyone that there's a suspected potential noose-like structure in Bubba's garage? The answer to both is no. Well, the real answer is no, they didn't need the FBI agents. They could have checked themselves. But they preferred the narrative of the racist noose, and so they ran with it until they could run no longer. Or you thought they could run no longer. But here they were last night on ESPN, trotting this thing out again a year later. Let's watch some of this clip here.
I just wanted to stand with him during the national anthem to show my support for him, and was appalled by what I had learned. And then as drivers got involved, I think crew members, team managers, team owners, it really started to snowball within a very short period of time.
The most incredible, non-competitive moment in sports I'd ever seen.
That moment, I could feel the weight of that moment, and I think we all did as we were walking.
Yes, it may have been one of the most incredible moments in sports. Never in the history of sports has there been such pageantry and emotion surrounding a garage door. This was quite easily, I think we could say this, right? Quite easily the most dramatic garage door related sports moment in world history. But I'm not sure if that's anything to brag about necessarily. And just because I'm a glutton for punishment, let's keep watching a little bit of this clip here.
I get out of the car, I look back, and I was like, holy shit, it's the whole garage. The whole garage. And that's when I lost it.
In the midst of all the turmoil, that was going on in the world, with the black and white, the hatred and everything that was going on, the entire NASCAR family rallied behind my son.
Very inspiring. Now, just to remind you, again, it was not a noose. So it was 100% not any kind of racist attack at all. It was just a rope with a loop on it so you could grab hold of it to pull the door closed. And by the way, that's also how we know it's not a noose, because a noose, and I know like this, people on the left, they don't spend a lot of time outdoors. They probably don't do a lot of fishing or, that kind of thing. So they're not familiar with tying knots, but I can tell you that not every knot is a noose. In fact, most of them aren't. Only one knot is a noose, and it's a noose, and all the others are different kinds of knots. But they might look kind of similar, because I know, again, if you don't spend a lot of time outside, all you do is watch corporate media, you see a rope, and maybe you just start breaking down in tears because you think, well, why else would that rope be there except to hang somebody? But a noose has a particular application, and so one of the, like by definition, a noose, when you pull on the loop, it constricts, because that's what it's made to do. That's what makes it a noose. So if you pull on the loop and it does not constrict, then it's not a noose. And so since this thing was hanging there as a garage door since the previous October, we could probably assume that it was not constricting when you pulled on it, because that means it would, like, every time you try to shut the garage door, it would break your hand. And so I'm going to assume that had not been there for months, where every time you shut the garage door, just everyone's getting their hand broken and no one thinks to change the knot. So I'm assuming that's not the case, which means that it was a knot that did not constrict. It's not a noose. So in other words, this was not a makeshift gallows that had been set up to perform executions before the race. We know all of this now. I mean, any intelligent person knew it the moment they heard about the story, even before the FBI brain trust confirmed it. But now even the dumbest among us knows it. And still, ESPN aired the special. They reported themselves last year that the FBI confirmed it was not a hate crime. And yet here they are. You thought the media would be embarrassed by Jussie Smollett. Instead, they're saying, oh yeah, you think we're embarrassed by that? Well, take this. Here's an emotional documentary about a black guy who was afraid of his garage door. So this is the double down. It's also, as I've been explaining for the last few weeks, the reality curation. They are shaping the way people view reality. The actual details don't matter. In fact, the whole idea that nooses are racist symbols is itself a part of that reality curation. Nooses, actual nooses, like real nooses, have been used for thousands of years for different applications, but yes, often to perform executions. Many thousands of people, or millions, of all different races have died that way through the course of human history. Many of them have been convicted criminals. In some cases, they are unjustly lynched by violent mobs. But whoever decided that the noose, this like universal object, is a symbol of special significance to black people? When did that start? Well, the media decided that. They decided it some time ago, and they've now turned it into a reality through one hoax after another. They've been so successful in constructing this reality that even people on the right who are skeptical of the individual noose hoaxes still don't stop to question why we're pretending that the noose is a racist symbol in the first place. That's the power of the false reality that the left has constructed, and which permeates and intrudes into the lives of people who would otherwise know better. So it's a very unique situation in modern times. There've always been liars and propagandists in the world, but never with such immediate and all-encompassing access to so many people. And so with this ability to fundamentally reshape how we look at the world, which is all the more reason to remain vigilant and skeptical, and if we stand in the truth, to stand there stubbornly. At least as stubborn as the liars are with their lies. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.